1 year ago today, I released my last episode. That's not quite true, but it feels like a long time, doesn't it? I think because I started the podcast daily and then haven't really built a proper routine since then, getting into the right routine of releasing the podcast in the right order, the right time, has become a bit difficult. But today, I've got a real treat for you. Today's episode is an interview with Dan Clark. Dan is somebody I was introduced to by a mutual friend. I got collared by my friend Mike, who was like, I've just met someone, he's going through leukemia, you two would get on, you two should connect. We then got an introduction on LinkedIn, which led to us having a really, really nice chat where we just shared stories and experiences of what we've both been through with leukemia. Now, although Dan's leukemia has been going on for a long time, it's not over yet. This conversation is really a difficult conversation to have and a really interesting conversation to listen to, where Dan shares a lot about what he's gone through, what he's still going through, and how it feels to have cancer and to be dealing with cancer in your life. Dan's a real inspiration to me, but I'm going to let him tell his story in his words. So, here we go. So, Dan, welcome to the Bad Blood podcast.
Hi, John. Happy to be here.
Great to have you with us. I guess to start with, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your life before cancer in a minute to kind of give us the background on you and who you are.
Fine, yeah, quick squiz. Born in Cambridge, stayed there till I was 18. I'll spare you the details around that, but went off to uni in Norwich, UEA, had a good 3 years there, and then decided to take the plunge and just head straight to London. Set myself up as a self-employed PT. Then, as we all do, fell into recruitment, and I've been there ever since. So, still living in London now, out near Harold Wood, Romford Way. Just recently took a new job back in the city, so it's my first venture back into the city since COVID, actually. So, big change, but looking forward to that, and all part of the putting the life back together after cancer part. So that's me.
Amazing. And as you were saying just before we hit record, it's just been the 2-year anniversary of your diagnosis. So I guess let's get into the meat of it. Why don't you take us through kind of how that came about 2 years ago and what was going on?
Yeah, the joys. So 2 years down, 1 year to go. It all seems really hectic, but frankly it was. So I'd actually just left the role within a recruitment agency and set up myself as self-employed, and I was going to start up my own agency in October 2022. And then in the turn of the year in January, essentially got very ill, like in every kind of general illness way you could imagine. So sickness, headaches, migraines, especially tiredness, that sort of thing. A lot of it we put down to like the stress of starting a business. It was like you've got chronic stress, so you're throwing up and getting headaches and stuff. But then what really spurred me into getting a medical diagnosis was I was getting night sweats, and I was just getting out of breath for no reason, and I was getting chronic pain in my back and in my chest. So naturally thought there was something wrong with my heart. So first trip to A&E was in the January. Got sent away with some sort of like gastric problem. They were like, "Oh, you've just got indigestion, basically really bad indigestion." And this is like I'm like fit at this point. I'd put on a bit of weight, but I was like fit as a fiddle, 5 day gym goer, playing five-a-side, like blah blah blah. But I was like in A&E, rolling around on the floor, like embarrassing myself in front of everyone in Queens A&E, and spending a whole night there, like 12 hours, just to get some Gaviscon and on you go, mate. Um, they gave me some morphine and stuff for the pain, and that did take the pain away. Anyway, we went away. We weren't overly satisfied. Thought I still had a problem with my heart, but they did an ECG, and obviously there wasn't anything wrong with my heart, so it didn't show anything up. They did an ECG, they did an X-ray, they did everything. So where we were also focused towards my heart, that was all hunky dory. Anyway, so we went home. Few days later, back in again, severe pain in the middle of the night, woke me up, rushed to A&E. It was like, right, we have to get something done this time. Kind of similar story, blood tests, ECG, no, you're fine. But this time they were like, took my missus to the side. Is he on drugs? Like, has he been taking drugs and stuff? And I'm like, someone who's never actually done drugs. So it's kind of frustrating that I'm in the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life. And they're like, he's just on drugs. Like, I imagine they get a lot of people, but yeah, no, like I can't tell you what the pain is like. It's like I've never been stabbed either, but it's probably like being stabbed in your back and chest at the same time. Anyway, similar sort of story. Can't find anything wrong. We'll give you some like strong pain meds. See you later. And then in February, we actually went on a holiday to Barcelona. Enjoyed that completely fine. But now when I look at the photos, I'm grey in all of the photos, and there's a lot of like hindsight stuff, and that was one of them. I'm like, you shouldn't have been grey. But managed to enjoy the holiday without being sick or headaches, because by this point I couldn't work. I was waking up, throwing up, headaches, everything, the lot, and it was like, what on earth is going on here? We need to get some sort of diagnosis. But then the pain came really badly one night. We got the paramedics out. They couldn't send an ambulance or anything, but they were like, you need to get there right now. Took us in again, 10-hour wait. But a consultant came because we explained that we'd been 3 times, and thankfully they finally put my blood under a microscope. So the blood tests weirdly didn't show anything, because normally there would be a spike or a reduction in your reds or your whites, but mine were showing pretty normal for like the stage that the cancer was at. However, they put the blood under a microscope, and the consultant essentially did the usual, kind of took me and the missus to the side, hand on your leg, like, really sorry, but you have abnormal blood cells. We think it's leukemia. Like, bosh, like, I think that's like standard protocol that they just say it how it is. We're going to have to admit you. We're going to take you upstairs onto the oncology ward, and we'll go from there. So, oh my God, just gone self-employed, getting admitted to hospital for having leukemia as well. Like, in my mind, I don't know if it's like the right thing to say. I was always like, I would really hate to have a brain tumor or have like blood cancer. I was like, they seem like the terrible. So yeah, my body flicked into some sort of like denial mode anyway. Like, it didn't really hit me, and they moved me upstairs at Queens, and that was when they were like, right, we're actually going to start testing you specifically for different types of leukemias, lymphomas as well, but it was clearly a blood thing, but they do it all in one with like the non-tumorous stuff. Had the lovely experience of my first bone marrow, which I'm sure we'll come back to. And then, yeah, a couple of days later, it's been off to the lab. You've got acute lymphoblastic leukemia in your B cells. Don't ask me exactly what that means, but it's a white blood cell leukemia, and essentially either I can't remember which way around, B's and T's, either the blood cell that detects a disease or fights the disease is wrong. The bone marrow is putting out immature cells, so that they're not going to work. And the number specifically was 76% leukemia by that point, which I've been told is actually not that high. But they were like, we can't treat that here. So the first things they said were, one, this is a child's cancer, so you're 28, why have you got this? Two was like, um, there's no cause, there's like nothing in your lifestyle or genes could cause this one. Three, most importantly, we're treating to cure. So like that was laid out quite early on. But they said we don't have the chemotherapy here. We're gonna have to send you off to Barts. So I had a really bad night in the hospital. I think it like reared its head. I had the leukemia bone pain like all up my back all night, and they were zapping me with like the maximum amount of morphine, and they just couldn't get it out. But then I woke up. My dad was there. My missus was there, and they carted me off in an ambulance to Barts to begin treatment. So that was like the rather drawn out
Yeah,
diagnosis phase.
it's I mean it's crazy to listen to because it's just such a surreal experience, right? And as you reflect on it, I can see in your eyes that you're like, I can't believe this really happened, um, which is mad. How like what was going through your mind when the doctor told you that when he told you you've got leukemia? What were the first things that you thought about?
I remember having a big "why always me?" like
Mm,
like I'm like a bad luck Brian a little bit, like, and that's not like get your violins out thing, but there'd been like a sequence of things before that where I was like, can I catch a break? And then like the ultimate thing just hit me. I think the way that I coped more with it was by focusing on making sure that my family and my missus and that were all right. So I was putting a lot of energy into like my mum, my missus, stuff like that, just like chatting to people and telling them that I'm right. So yeah, initial thought was just like why me, but I think I switched off to it really quickly. If I like deeped it too much, I would have just fallen into a hole. So I just kind of took it at face value and tried to listen to what the doctors were saying. And the key thing was that they're treating to cure.
yeah.
So if it was like a treating to prolong situation, or you're in a bad way like straight away, then I couldn't have dealt with that. The key piece of information was that we're going to try and save you.
That yeah, that is such a like door open because it just brings hope in straight away, doesn't it? It means that from like moment one, you can see that there might be a future and that there's a future ahead. I, I think the piece around like it's not it's nothing you've done, it's not your fault, nothing you've done's caused this, it's not genetic. That's what I got told as well for mine, and I remember kind of thinking at the time that that sounded like it was supposed to be comforting, but not finding it comforting, like in and of itself. How did that feel to you? Like, as you say, it wasn't the key piece of information, but how did that contribute to things you're feeling?
I'd say it's probably a bit more poignant now
Yeah.
because you have that relapse lingering over you for the rest of your life. And there are specific milestones at which the percentage chance of relapse goes down quite a lot. At the time, it was just like, oh, great, well, whatever. Like, I'm ill now, so there's not really anything I can do apart from go through the treatment. But now it's like, I don't know what I need to do in my life to try and stave off the relapse. It's more, yeah, so it's more for now than back then. Back then it was just like you just been hit by a train, so regardless of what caused it, it is what it is. If I'd smoked and got lung cancer, then I could blame myself, but with that it was more just like you got to take it at face value and crack on with the treatment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I do want to come back to to the marrow test, but we'll maybe cover marrow tests as a topic in and of itself because there's definitely a story to be had there. What happened next? Talk me through. So you get moved to Bart's. What happened at Bart's?
So went to Bart's, got put in a side room, and met the lead oncologist there, who to this day I've never ever seen again. And then basically they try and get you started on your treatment as quickly as possible. They wanted to do their own marrow test, and I was really against that idea, but they were like, it's vital that we do another marrow test just so we can actually pinpoint certain things and make sure that your regime's set up correctly. Did that, came and explained basically that I'm going to be on the UCAL 14 protocol, which is like the UK ALL 2014 treatment plan. It's going to be a 3-year plan. And what they like to do is just map out the phase in front of you. So you start off with induction, which is what they were going to do, is 8 weeks. Like, you're not going to leave the hospital for 8 weeks. These are the drugs we're going to put in you at these intervals. And then they consent you, basically, like every single possible side effect under the sun apparently can happen when you're going through chemo. So you have to basically sign off that you're okay with that. And then yeah, within a couple of days, you're hooked up to an IV and taking your chemo.
And like, what were some of those side effects that you like remember hearing? Like, because it's a long list, isn't it? And it takes a good 15-20 minutes for them to take you through it. What were the ones that I'll use the word scared you the most, but what were the ones that like stuck in your mind as they're reading through those?
Like imminent, immediate death. Like, just your body doesn't fancy the drug that they're putting in you. It's ridiculously strong stuff, and it just kills you. That was the main one.
Yeah.
um,
Heck.
and then allergies and stuff like that. And I did actually get into a situation with allergies. Um, Blood clots was a big one. Had that. um, I don't know. Like, they talk about like your limbs can go black and fall off and stuff, and it's like ridiculous stuff like that. Which, like, I don't know if that's like maybe happened one time, so they had to put it in there. But a lot of the stuff is what you would expect. Nothing really comes as a surprise. It's like, expect extreme sickness. Your hair's going to fall out. You'll be tired. Um, I don't know. There's other ones that I probably didn't know about that. Well, I tell you, actually, one thing that's just popped into my mind is they're very clear on the fact that chemotherapy has an extremely high likelihood of making you infertile.
Mm.
So they whisked the fertility clinic people in very quickly to get like a sample stored away for the fact that once you start chemo, you're probably sterile. So I don't know what's going on that end, but we'll find out at some point. But they one of the benefits of being a male is that you can
Yeah.
give your sample, and like at least you've got peace of mind on that, because it's something that me and the missus would like to do in the future. So it was quite concerning that I might be
Yeah.
causing issues, but no, thankfully they're sitting there in central London somewhere.
Yeah,
uh,
they're also very clear that you shouldn't use it as contraception though as well. That
no, yeah,
like you're probably going to be sterile, but don't trust that if you're not ready for kids, which is I always found interesting.
no, there's those are like we can go into the minutiae on that. But the other thing as well, so skipping ahead a little bit, is when I came out of hospital, they're like, you and your partner can't use the same toilet,
Wow.
because if it's in your urine, essentially the chemo, if it's in your toilet bowl and you haven't really gone to town on cleaning the toilet bowl, it can like splash up into your guests and like people who live in your house. So you should have like separate toilets, which is a problem because we only have one toilet. So we had like protocol around that, like triple flush, like bleach and that kind of thing in the beginning. And it's all mad stuff like that. You're like, oh yeah,
The like the chemo is so intense, isn't it? It's such a like horrific poison that they're putting into you. Um, yeah, they really they're really trying to kill something, aren't they?
yeah.
Yeah.
You can read online, and I did the usual like Google what's the worst chemo and stuff like that. And I remember very specifically, there's you Google it and it's doxorubicin. So I don't know if that's like used in the UK. However, guess what? The first thing on my like treatment list was donarubicin, which is basically like the evil cousin, and it's basically this red liquid that they inject into the side of your IV as you're getting an IV of another chemo, but it like obviously it's like red and it like infects the clear juices that's going in you, and you're like, yeah, this is not good. But you read the packets of the chemo and stuff, and it's like if it gets on the skin of the nurse or it gets on the skin of your someone at home, it's gonna essentially like eat your skin. And they're like, just take it straight in. But um, I think I over worried. Like I'll be honest. Like my brain always goes to the worst case scenario, and as crap as the whole treatment was, I think I overcooked my expectations, which maybe helped.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. What were some of the things that weren't as bad then? Like what were some of those areas where it wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be?
Like I thought that you would just be throwing up 24/7 every
Mhm.
day, and for me that just wasn't the case. There was periods of time where I was vomiting multiple times a day, but there is like times of respite and stuff. And I thought that straight away you go bald and skinny, but actually my hair never fell out of my head, and I put on loads of weight. So they're probably the main areas that went against my expectations.
Let's go back to the marrow tests because I feel like this is maybe one of those where you couldn't have expected it to be as bad as it was.
Yeah.
You've got a pretty thick bones from what I remember.
Yeah.
That was about your marrow test.
This is your clip that you're gonna get. Like, no, genuinely, like the worst part of the whole thing was the marrow tests, and I had two right at the very beginning 2 years ago, and I still will never have another one without sedation till today. So, um, the marrow test, uh, I know you've been through it in quite depth with your personal story. Basically, mine was right. We're going to extract some marrow and some blood from your inside your bone in your hip, and then we're going to take it away and test it. It's not that bad. It's okay. Like it's a bit uncomfortable, but it'll be fine. Anyway, so they send in like the doctor in Queens, and it was a good hour of just like corkscrewing my hip manually with like a metal corkscrew, which really, really hurts, even though you have like lidocaine and stuff. And every single sample they were taking was clotting. So where I had leukemia blood, it was just clotting like that. Like it hit oxygen, clot, clot, clot. Anyway, so they're going deeper, keep corkscrewing in, and I'm screaming like the sweat's all over the place. And the nurse fainted because it was like so savage. And then my mum had to like run around and put the nurse's legs on the table. This was all behind me. I didn't see what was going on, but like my mum was just like, "Oh god," the nurse is just laying out on the floor, and the doctor's still trying to get stuff. Fail, 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 and I think they got like one in the end. But it's like Jigsaw, like the film. it's like if you want to live, you've got to take this barbaric thing for like an hour and a half of like excruciating pain, or you're not going to get your treatment, you're going to die. Great, okay. So had that. That was like the worst experience of my life. And the funny thing is, as soon as you're done, they put a plaster on it and it doesn't hurt. Anyway, when I was told I'd have the second one, I was like, nah, that was the worst experience of my life. If I never ever have to do that again, um, yeah, whatever. Anyway, they gaslighted me so much into getting the second one, not because they were like, it's so urgent that we get this done. Like, we know you kind of have leukemia now. You need this one, and then they give you like the jigsaw again. You're not going to get your chemo and you're going to die, or you have to have it again. But don't worry, in Barts, our doctors are so good with doing bone marrows. I was like, oh, maybe I just got a bad one. Okay, I believe you. 2 hours later of corkscrewing, and my whole family's like crying, pacing up and down the room. They shouldn't really have been in there, like, because it was just
Yeah.
savage. It was like watching someone try and like, I don't know, do like, I don't have an analogy for it. It's terrible. Yeah, the doctor had to like leave the room a few times because she was like just getting too like upset and stuff. And yeah, it was clot because my blood was still in a bad way. And eventually they got it, but it's like just a bloodbath. Like you're getting your bone like corkscrewed by hand. I don't know why there's not a machine to do these extractions, but yeah, now I get them done sedated, so they're actually okay.
Now, I've heard of sedation, but I've never had it. So what like how is sedation different to being like under general anesthetic? Like what does sedation feel like?
Uh, in, Relaxing, very, very, very relaxing. So you have fentanyl and uh, what's the other one? It's fentanyl and something else. But yeah, it's just take you into a room, give you like an oxygen mask, and just in your arm, just some heroin like opiates, and you don't remember a thing. Like however long you've been under the sedation, you just can't remember it. And you talk and stuff though, which I don't really like. Like the first time the doctor was like, "Yeah, you told us that you were going to do a bodybuilding show, and all about it," and I was just like, "Yeah, I don't think that looks likely right now." But yeah, so you talk about stuff under the sedation, but you cannot remember a thing. But it's so much nicer. Like I actually don't really mind them nowadays.
Yeah. Nice. So you were in hospital for 8 weeks total for that whole induction period. What was that like? How did you cope with like the long days of being in hospital for so long?
Uh, so yeah, went to Queens, got carted over to Barts, and then they're not very pinpoint on how long you're going to be there. They're like roughly 8 weeks, depending on how long it takes. So I didn't try and think, right, I'm getting out of here in 8 weeks. I will just go along with it and see what happens. And then every few days, something crazy happens. So that was keeping me pretty busy. Um, my missus was there like every day. I think she missed them maybe like 2 days, just where she was completely wrecked and couldn't come in. And I had visitors every day, so that kept me busy. There was maybe like 2 or 3 weeks where I was just so dead out that I just didn't even open my eyes those days. So you literally just laying there for weeks on end, not eating or anything. just keep your eyes shut and hold on for like dear life. There was a few days where I was on so much drugs. Sorry about that. There's a few days where I was on so much like high drugs again and stuff. Like there was this. I'll try and timeline out the 8 weeks, but there was a syringe driver in my leg that was basically providing like a pretty heavy dose of this midazolam and morphine, and so I don't remember those days. I was just like chilling. So, um, yeah, like thinking back, it felt a lot longer than 8 weeks. You could have told me I was in there for 6 months, and I would believe you. But um, 8 weeks doesn't sound that long, but it is long when you're getting zapped with chemo every day.
Absolutely. And then I guess what was the experience like of getting sent home? Like what? Yeah, talk us through that part of the journey.
I felt like an alien. Yeah, like my missus' dad came and picked me up in the back of his. He had a cab at the time, and we just had all my life, like belongings that I've collected in the hospital for the last 8 weeks, just in the back of the taxi. But I'd not left that room for 8 weeks. They like you can't leave the room when you're immunocompromised to the level that I was. So you've literally just been in that room for 8 weeks. So just seeing people and stuff, I was just like, whoa, crazy. And yeah, it was just very odd. Getting home was such a good feeling, like just laying on the sofa and having like the home comforts and the freedom. Like, I think one of the worst parts is just like you are locked in that room and you like, can I like go down and just go in the sun for a bit? No, oh, okay. And you have to eat what they give you, and the NHS menu is terrible. So the freedom element was, yeah, you feel like an alien, but yeah.
And then your treatment plan once you came home from hospital, what did that look like? And I guess yeah, take us through kind of how it's gone since then.
Yeah. Shall I go through the 8 weeks in the hospital?
Yeah,
Because that's
yeah,
the
that'd be
funny
really good.
part
That'd be
where
really
all the
good.
mad stuff happened.
Yeah.
Because I guess since then it's been a bit more plain sailing. But yeah, like kind of during the 8 weeks, the most crazy side effects of the stuff just happened. Like I've got a bit of a timeline written down here. So after I had the first kind of zap, my body just decided to get diabetes. So you can get like similar to like gestational diabetes, but you get like chemo diabetes. So I had my first experience of insulin basically, and they they couldn't get my blood sugar down, and we were trying to kind of figure out what was going on. But I don't know about you, but everyone seems to get like a chemo craving. Mine was banana yazoo. So I was drinking all this banana yazoo and spiking my blood sugar, and my body couldn't like bring it down. And so they kept bringing in various like insulin and just bringing it back down. But it was like a game because I, like an idiot, like I know how diabetes works. I just kept drinking banana yazoo, spiking it, and they, yeah. Anyway, like kind of eating them out of house and home for insulin. But the main kind of thing came when I had this. It's called pegylated asparaginase. So it's like big sign off form. You're going to take this. It's the strongest thing for leukemia, but it has all the main bad side effects. And when they when they're going to give it to you, they wheel in the defibrillator, and like all the oxygen masks and everything, just in case. This was like the one where it was like you got to take this because it's the strongest thing, but if you do, all this bad stuff's going to happen. But anyway, I took it very late at night as well, so I had to sleep, and I was like, I'm not going to wake up. But I did wake up, and then like a couple of days later, started like twitching a bit. My shoulders. Sounds really weird, but they started like kind of like twitching. I was like, that's a bit weird. Feel a bit weird. Anyway, they were like micro seizures. My mum came in one day, and the nurses wanted to change my bed, and I was like, I can't get up. Like I feel a bit weird. Anyway, they were like, no, you haven't had your bed changed for like 3 days. Get up. So I get up, and I just had a seizure, uh, like right in front of my mum. And I was like, I've never had a seizure or passed out or anything before. So it was crazy, crazy situation. And that peg asparaginase had given me blood clot in my brain. So a reasonably sized blood clot. And it hadn't, it just been building because I'd just been laying there. And then until I stood up, and that obviously caused some sort of like oxygen or blood like redistribution. And from there, I just like couldn't do anything. Like in the coming days, my legs stopped working, so I couldn't like get up to go to the toilet or anything. And I had to like, yeah, do all the mad stuff. They put a catheter in and stuff. And then I got mad, crazy back pain again, like the back pain on that night I told you about. And that was when they put the syringe driver in. So at that point, I was just like this useless, like glob of just like skin and bones, like being sick, but not really with it, just waffling all day long because I was on all these drugs and my legs didn't work. So I like try in the middle of the. So they let my missus stay over because things were getting pretty bad at that point. They were like, yeah, you can stay over because you're worried. Like normal protocol is kick your guests out at 8, but they were letting us stay over and stuff. And it was like in the middle of the night, I was like, I want to roll over. So she was like taking my legs and moving my legs over. It was all this crazy stuff that you think like, why was that happening? You only had leukemia. Like anyway.
Only leukemia.
Yeah, got through all that. And then before I left, they wouldn't let me leave until I could walk once around the ward again. Because basically I had like jelly legs. They just like for some reason stopped working after I had the seizure. And I was really scared. I was thinking I'm gonna be paralyzed. But got walking again, like started shuffling, used the walker, then went through PT and stuff, and then they eventually let me out. But it was all the crazy stuff in that first 8 weeks, and my consultant's like, yeah, like you had side effects that we've never even seen before. But he was like, the good thing is, usually the people who have a rough like phase 1 have an all right phase 2 and phase 3, and I think that's been the case. Phase 2 was hard for like logistical reasons. So I'll try and break it down right. I might get it wrong. Phase 1, you've got like induction phase, which is 8 weeks where you're just getting blasted. They want to get you down to like 0% leukemia with that, which they did. And then phase 2, you go back in for like a month and just have some different concoction of drugs. But then phase 3 is like a travel in, travel out, and that was such a nightmare because we're an hour and a half, depending on traffic, from London, and my missus was like trying to get me into the car every day, but didn't have the energy to walk. And at that point, I was really vomity. So basically, she's like trying to cart this vomity mess to London every day. And you can't park close to the hospital. You've got to park like across the thing. And I just remember because my red blood cells were really low at that point. I would have to like take like 10 meters and then lay on the floor in central London. It was a nightmare because you had to get to a certain point, then you could get a wheelchair. So there's me in like St. Paul's Bank area with all the working people that used to be me, just like walking like 10 meters, lay on the floor, literally like on the floor in London. People just like looking at you like, what the hell is up with that guy? But we did that every day for 2 weeks. Like for some reason you couldn't stay in, and you would get there at like 9 a.m. and wouldn't leave till like 8 p.m. because they give you a few bits and bobs, but they have to be done in a certain order, and they don't. So at Bart's, they make their own chemo. So, and they don't start making it until you get there to know that you are there. So you'll wait for them to make it, and then yeah, long day. So that was a bit of a nightmare. But then since then, everything's been outpatient, which is so much more handy.
Yeah, that is mad. That like logistical challenge must have been so hard, like emotionally and physically, like to just get up every day knowing you've got that trek, not only in terms of
Yeah,
time in the car, where you're feeling, but then yeah, just must have
I
felt
was like a big giant 28-year-old baby, like that was refusing to go to hospital. Like there were days where I was just like, "Nah, I'm not going. I think I'm done with this." I was just like, I think I'll just take the chance. Like this is too savage. And then my missus obviously to like drag me, like, don't be stupid. we're going to hospital. So yeah, like she had to put up with that. But yeah, you have to. It's weird because you have to train yourself to get up when you've got no energy, get in the car, sit in the car, vomiting for an hour,
Mm-hmm.
to spend the day of getting more of the stuff that's making you feel like this, and then travel back and do it all again the day after. And it was just like that was, yeah, you got to find like something within you to motivate yourself to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you find? Or like do you attribute all that to your partner? Like how did you find that?
Probably 95% her.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it, like, if she wasn't there getting me up and getting me in the car, probably, yeah, just wouldn't have bothered, like, because this just was horrific. And and then, yeah, you've obviously just got that thing in the back of your head that's like your alternative is painful, long, slow death. So go and take the chemo and just trust that that's what you need to do, sort of thing.
Yeah, it really doesn't feel like you've got a choice to make, doesn't it? Like, you know, they make it sound like it's a choice, but you just haven't got one, and that's I found that was something that I found really hard. That like I don't have any choice in this. You know, I can't choose not to do this, even if I wanted to, even if, you know, even if my consent wasn't given, I don't really have a choice because
Mm,
it's a terrible choice to make.
yeah.
Yeah.
My consult, I had a clinic meeting with my consultant once. It was maybe my second or third, and I said, like, do people refuse chemo? And he was like, yeah, you'd be surprised how many people think that either they can pray leukemia away or they can like get rid of it by eating a cleaner diet. And he just basically said they all tend to just wind up in a worse situation at some point. Either they come back 2 weeks later and they've got 10 times worse, or they're no longer curable. So I just, I mean, that never crossed my mind. I was just like, I'm going to trust what they say and just go for it.
Yeah.
And thankfully, it's gone well. So
So when did it get easier then? What was like your I don't want to use line in the sand because as you've alluded to and as we can talk about, 3 years is the real first line in the sand, isn't it, properly? But when did it go from that kind of intensity to a bit more of normality?
So I had a bone marrow after like the initial kind of really intense phase, and they were basically like, you, it's called zero MRD, I think is what they call it, like negative MRD is like minimal residual disease, and that basically is like you have 0.0000% cancer, and that was quite early on. And that was like the most emotional moment of probably the last like 2 years. Was like, okay, it was all worth it. Like we did it. Like we were sat there like in a clinic with the consultant, and like everyone was crying and loving life, and it was like, you're gonna live, but you still have 2.5 years of chemo left. So I think that was like the main milestone, because as I said, the main key thing from the diagnosis was you're getting tracked to cure. So the worst thing would have been is taking a bad turn. So getting that right, 0% cancer left, was like the main thing, because it meant that we were like on target, because they want to get it out as quick as possible. It's acute cancer, so it spikes in, comes and gets you very quickly. It's not something that develops over time. It's like a month or so cancer, so you can get it out quite quickly, I think. And I responded quite well, took all the main crazy hardcore stuff, because they do a load of tests on you as well to see what you can and can't take. And I could take everything. And I was quite young, quite healthy. So they were like, we're just going to go all guns blazing. And then when I got to maintenance as well, that was a big thing. So the first year was chemo protocol. And then you get to the 1 year mark, and they're like, right, you've got 2 years of maintenance, which then essentially just means you're like maintaining your good situation essentially, and because it can relapse, they keep you on a protocol for 2 years to stop that, and then you hit that 3 year milestone and you're done completely. So
Nice. Nice. So so what does maintenance look like? So you've got 1 year left of maintenance.
yeah,
What does this next year look like for you?
yeah. So my maintenance finishes start of March 2026. What maintenance is for me is daily pills. So just take a pill. I don't even think it's specifically chemotherapy. I think they use it for Crohn's and colitis, that kind of thing as well. And then every Friday, I take a chemo drug, which makes me sick for the Saturday. But this is a regime that I've kind of like found works to be able to work full time because I get the full 5 days in office or whatever working, and I can do that. And then the only other thing is every 3 months there is a trip to the outpatient clinic up at Bart's, and that's an IV chemo and a intrathecal chemo, which, long story short, is they put the chemotherapy in your spinal cord.
Ooh.
It's not as bad as that sounds. That's
Okay,
that's
yeah, I think you're gonna have
that's
to
okay.
explain that in a
Yeah.
bit more detail. Tell us
So
how they do that.
leukemia can cross the blood spinal fluid barrier. And if it gets into your spinal fluid, goes to your brain, causes complications, bad time. They did a test, so they do a spinal tap on you as part of your initial thing, and they took some spinal fluid out and found that it wasn't in my spinal fluid, and it has never been in my spinal fluid. However, as part of UCAL 14, and yeah, this is the thing, regardless of what connotations you have with your disease, like you have to do the whole of UCAL 14, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. Basically, what they do is they go in, do a spinal tap, take 20 drops of spinal fluid out so they can take that off to test it, and then put a chemotherapy called methotrexate back in, and you're done. So it usually only takes about 20 minutes, but yeah, that's actually okay. I'll tell you the fun stuff with that actually. So it causes imbalances in the pressure in your head, and I had a leak once as well. So you can get leaks, and basically, I think it was because my platelets were low and it didn't clot up the hole. So I'm leaking spinal fluid, and this is when I was in hospital, and you get really bad headaches and like blurry vision, or I did anyway, and it was more like when you sat up, because it basically like the spinal fluid just goes out of your brain, and then your brain is like no longer floating in spinal fluid. It sounds so crazy. But it was like, as well, if you put your head forward, your brain locks forward and it started pulling on my spinal cord, which was giving me like lightning headaches. So essentially, at that point, you have to just lay flat for the whole day so that you're level. You can lay on a decline as well, so that like the spinal fluid is like giving the right level of pressure in your head. But yeah, and then what they have to do is they have to go back into the hole, and they do a blood patch, and they actually put like pre-clotted blood onto the hole in your spinal cord and patch it up. I didn't actually need that, but had it gone on a couple more days, they were like, you're going to need a patch. So yeah, but I luckily only had that once, and now basically what cures that is a white can monster. So I have the intrathecal, and then they're like, here's a Red Bull or here's a Monster, to because the caffeine does the thing that it needs to do with the pressure in your body or whatever. So they get you to lay flat for an hour and drink a can of Red Bull or Monster, and then on you go, and you're okay. So I do that every 3 months.
It's mental. That is
Yeah.
crazy. After all you've been through to then have to have that, which is, yeah, doesn't sound as bad as it sounds. Um, yeah, madness. So I guess like how, you know, you clearly are quite comfortable talking about this experience, and you're laughing about a lot of the horrible things that happened. Like how do you feel about the experience? Like how have the last 2 years changed you as a person?
It's a coping mechanism, first of all, the laughing. Uh, as part of cancer treatment, they do put you onto like a psychotherapy course.
Yeah.
And my therapist was like, yeah, you use humor to cover up the actual feelings. So yeah, I just giggle and laugh when I'm talking about uncomfortable things. But also I try not to be like overly serious. Um, what was the question? Sorry.
Yeah, how has it changed you? How has
How
this?
has it changed me? Unfortunately, I do think it has had a negative effect on me. I was always someone who's quite positive, glass half full. But now I'm a bit like a miserable old man mumbling into his pint about the world's rubbish, England's rubbish, the government, like. Whereas before it was like, it's all right, like everything's good. But I don't know. I maybe it's a bit of a like, why me
Yeah.
mentality. But I'm. The thing is, I'm aware of it. I'm happy to admit that that is probably someone I've become, with the view that hopefully, as I move out of chemo, because it's still lingering, the fact you have to take pills every day, because you're not just taking the chemo pills, you're taking the 15 other like support pills to stop you from getting like viruses and fungus and stuff in
Yeah.
your veins. And it still is like, oh, that's chemo guy, like that's cancer guy. And like I literally, before we hopped on now, just came back from a blood test, because you still have to go get regular blood tests and stuff. When that's all behind me, maybe I'll have a bit more of a positive outlook. um there's times where I go, oh, I've been given a second chance, I need to grab life by the horns and like go and travel and do a bucket list. But then I'm like, unfortunately, life doesn't work like that. I had no income for 18 months where I was on chemo, so your life is just in like freaking tatters. So I'm basically in like re-piecing mode, and that's laying things out like quite bare. But with the new job and everything, and like I'm feeling really positive about that at the moment. I think with that, along with moving out the other end of chemo and everything, like things will just generally start to improve and I'll get back to my normal self. But generally, yeah, I think it's made me more pessimistic and miserable, like despite the humor and everything. But that's just the honest truth.
No, I really appreciate you being honest there and sharing that. And it it must be tough. And I wonder, well, I'll ask you the question in a second, but in fact I'll just ask you it now. Like, do you ever forget? Do you ever have moments where you're not kind of constantly reminded that it's going on and that it's, although you've had so many of those good news moments throughout, do you ever get that piece of like feeling like you can forget about it, or does it just constantly remind you?
I do, but it drags you back in.
Yeah.
Like you're like scuttling away. Oh, new job, or really nice day out, or my 30th birthday. But you start and end every day with chemo pills. So it's like, wake up, pills,
Yeah.
before you go to bed, pills, during the day, pills. So it's just like constantly reminding you. And yeah, I don't know. It's just like people don't remind me as much now. But for the first year, you've obviously constantly got people in your DMs like, how you doing? How's your health? How's this? How's that? And it does then start to define you. Um, so I block it out quite a lot. I like to think I'm living like a normal life now, but you constantly are taking pills and going to the hospital. So it drags you back in. But I don't mind. Like, it
Yeah,
doesn't make me sad as such.
that's good. That's good. What what are some of the things that some of the normality that you have been able to bring back in, and what are some of the things that you're, I'll use the word excited for, but like, fast forward to March 2026. you walk out those hospital doors and it's done. What are some of the things that you're doing now that you're excited to continue on with, and some of the things that you're kind of looking forward to kind of moving on with your life with?
Yeah, so I think a big thing for me, January, went back to the gym.
Nice.
So I was a personal trainer before I was in recruitment, and kind of always maintained like gym as quite a big part of my life and keeping fit and healthy. And throughout that kind of like 2 years of chemo, stacked on a load of weight, didn't do any exercise, didn't go to the gym. So that was a big milestone, being back in the gym, and I've kept that up until now. I've lost a bit of weight and feeling a bit stronger and stuff, because you feel just like a bit frail and so that's a big one. And then going back into an office for the first time since, so I had an office job in, well, we went home for COVID, and then we came back into the office. But after about 6 months, I left and went remote, and then since then been remote and doing cancer. So this is the first time I'll be going back into an office 5 days a week, and I'm really looking forward to it, just because of like the routine element and being around people again. Like, seems like a really good vibe in the office. Like one of the things as well is I don't mind a beer, right? And they tell you like throughout you can have a beer. Like, it seems really weird. Like, even after my first 8 weeks, my Mrs. Dad, the first question that he asked the consultant before I could even get anything out of my mouth about life after hospital, he's like, "Can I have a beer?" And I was like, the last thing I want is beer. I feel like I would like explode if I had a beer. My blood is like gonna just turn to beer if I have one. But like, yeah, I've been out, had pints. Like, for my 30th, I went to Manchester, had a weekend away. So it has stopped me from doing certain things, but not too much. One of the big things I would really like to get back to is playing football while I still can. So like, get back to just playing a bit of five-a-side, probably. And then yeah, just fingers crossed everything with the new job goes well, and that really kicks off, and start like rebuilding career, getting back fit and healthy. That kind of thing is the main thing. And then big life things would probably be like looking at, family planning and stuff, hopefully in the near future. So yeah, that's the main things.
Amazing. Let's let's do some kind of quick fire. I say quick fire, you can take as long as you want to answer, but like maybe some like one word answers to these ones.
Yeah.
So like if in one word, like what word would you use to describe leukemia?
Derailing.
Really? Give me three more that like expand on that a little bit.
uh shit. um
That is perfect. That
yeah.
is perfect. I'm with you. I'm with you. Um, one word, worst thing about cancer.
Bone marrow biopsy.
I'll take it. I'll take that as
Yeah.
one word. And then in one word, and I appreciate this is a difficult question to answer, but like, what's been the best thing about the whole experience?
My CNS, my cancer, my clinical nurse specialist.
Nice. I feel like
I
there's
met,
a story that,
I've met an angel there. Like, that's like
yeah,
the best
yeah.
person to ever exist in the world.
Tell,
Aside
tell,
from my missus, obviously.
absolutely.
Like, yeah,
Absolutely. Tell
yeah.
me a bit about her. Yeah, tell me a bit about her.
So your CNS is your like person who's like your patient liaison, maybe you could call it that. But they are like a clinically trained person, nurse, but they've just stepped up to be like high band person. And my CNS is a lady who's been at Bart's for like 25, 28 years, and is just like exceptional. So they like organize your treatment, they talk to your consultant, they let you know where and when you need to be places. But like, mine was just like, came into my room at 10 o'clock every night, and just came and like comforted me and looked after me like every night, because for some reason she doesn't go home or sleep or whatever. But basically, if you get a good CNS, I think your whole experience of cancer would be different to if you had a bad CNS. It's so crucial. It's like you've got your consultant, which is pretty important. Luckily, great consultant. Then you got your CNS because they're your like day to day point of contact for everything essentially. But like she just went above and beyond for me, and for my missus, like the amount of support to my missus, my family, me. Yeah, she's just like a good friend now as well. Like it goes beyond being a CNS. Like she's just like so crucial to how your cancer treatment goes, and I feel so strongly about this.
That is amazing. And yeah, really nice shout out to her. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
sometimes well, I don't really meet amazing people that often. Like amazing's quite a big, strong word,
Yeah,
but beyond amazing.
amazing.
Yeah, I'll make sure she watches this as well.
Fantastic. Final question for you then. I guess, well, in fact, maybe not final question. What what would be your advice to somebody who's at some point in their cancer journey, whether it's leukemia or something different? What would your advice be to them, if they're maybe at the start of it or kind of in the midst of it, or maybe they've got a family member who's in a similar situation? What would you want them to know?
It's a question that I thought would come up in this, and it's such a difficult one because I don't feel like I'm in any way like an authority in the cancer space, and I do think just take things at face value is important. Like you will read the worst of the worst on public forums online. I know everyone says it and it's quite a wishy-washy answer, but frankly, I'm a 28-year-old guy from England. You go on these forums, it's like 50-year-old women from America that are like talking about their experience, and no one's experience is the same. So whatever I've said here, I know people who sailed through phase one. I know people who sail through bone marrows and it's no issue. The intrathecal is worse than the bone marrow. But I think just take your own bespoke journey at face value and eat lots. Like just eat when you can. Just like get calories in where you can. You probably become like chunky guy like me, but I think a big reason that my body physically like withstood a lot of the evil stuff is because I just ate when I could. I was ordering Domino's to Bart's and like sending the nurses down, just trying to pack calories in when I could. Because for the periods where you can't eat, you need that. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I've volunteered actually at Bart's to speak to people because I think a lot of the thing for me being a weird demographic, right? I'm not a kid, right? This is a kid cancer. They said straight away, like it's common in babies, children, and in very old people. If you can speak to someone in a similar situation, it does provide a bit of comfort. Like I had a guy who had the T cell version of exactly what I've got, just uh, 2 years ahead, and a lot of what he said, we were both just saying like, "This is shit, isn't it?" Yeah, it is, but we both found it shit, so it's better. Like it's okay. So yeah, I don't know. Try and find people of a similar demographic. That is an open offer if anyone is around my age going through something similar. Shoot me a message because even if you just want to say this is so shit, so yeah, it is. Like just it makes you feel better because you ask what's good about it, and my CNS is like kind of like it's an external thing. I don't know if there's much internally that is good about leukemia. I don't think there is. Like some people may say, I've really found myself through leukemia. Unfortunately, that's not me. Like I've gone the opposite way. I'm like, fuck this, like fuck the world. But don't be afraid to be honest about your feelings either. Like, you don't have to pretend like, oh, see the world in such a different way now. Like, I think one thing that you'll see is I'm just like, no, it's just shit. But if you're both in the trenches together talking to people, then yeah, happy days. And if you're not happy with your CNS, request a new one. Like, if your CNS is shonky and like letting things go, or you're not really happy, like your CNS, your consultant, your nurse, everyone is replaceable. Like, I'm sorry, there are some people who are not as good in every hospital. And if you're not happy, it's your life and like your stuff. So just request a different one. There's always a head nurse on the ward or on your outpatient clinic that you can get a change.
I'm really grateful for the things you've shared there, both the tactical advice of asking for a replacement if you're not happy, but also that like recognition that there isn't something good about it. And I deliberately asked that question knowing that there might not be something good, right? And that is the truth of it. And I remember people telling me to like have hope and like, well, look, you're gonna get better, and it's like that doesn't make me feel better now, right? Like,
Mm.
yeah, that's great, and that is wonderful, and I'm so grateful that that's been your experience and my experience when so many don't have that experience. But in the moment of when you're going through the horrible parts of it, that doesn't make you feel any better, does it? It
No,
doesn't change how the experiences that you're going through. It will be different, right? There will, as we've talked about, there'll be a day where it doesn't feel like that anymore in that moment. But that doesn't mean that you have to enjoy going through the
no.
worst thing that
And
ever happened to you.
they're people who've never had the illness and they can walk out the door at the end of the day. They can all leave the hospital, go and eat what they want, like not be sick, not be worried for their life. So I think it seems I've never even said this before. Like, when people go, when I'm talking to them, I'm like, yeah, it's just shit, isn't it? We get it. Like, we don't have to go any further. But like, other people are like, yeah, but blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, but you don't know. I know. Yeah, I do know. But what's it to you? Like, you're gonna go home, get in your own bed. I'm in this clunky, sweaty hospital bed. Like,
They are
just,
so sweaty with the
yeah,
plastic under you. Yeah, they're horrible. They're
plastic
horrible.
sheet. Yeah, and yeah, just NHS menu food. Oh, actually, big hack here. Actually, I requested the halal menu
Oh,
in Barts, and on there is all jerk chicken and rice, curries, uh, like all different foods. And I would certainly recommend that you did that
that is a
because
great shout.
I was just eating jacket potatoes with beans and cheese until that point. and, and I didn't realize there was a whole other menu that you could order off. But
That,
yeah,
that is such a good hack. Such a good.
yeah.
Um, where you talked about people messaging you. Where's the best way for people to get in touch with you? And I guess anywhere that you want to give a shout out. I know there's a lot that you're working on for yourself and for your career. So yeah.
Uh, I guess I'm not sure exactly where this is going to go out, but I'm there on LinkedIn if it's on LinkedIn, or probably Instagram is the best. I'm documenting my weight loss on my Instagram at the moment. It's kind of slightly fallen off where I've been trying to get this new job together and stuff, but yeah, I don't really care. If anyone DMs me, they can have my personal number, but I don't know. I'm quite forthcoming with talking about stuff, and I'm happy to share, but other people aren't. So
Fair play. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast and for sharing your story, Dan.
yeah, appreciate you having me.
Thank you for listening. Thank you to Dan for being willing to share his story and share his experience, and just be willing to be open with the world about what he's been through. What a day.